Hello, Algebra 2. So this is the agenda for today, October 20th. We're going to do notes number 26, if you can take a piece of paper out. The essential question is, how are absolute value functions graphed? And there's no homework for tonight. Okay, so hopefully you have your piece of paper out. Notes number 26 in the top left. And I just want you to sit and listen for just a minute. Okay, so this slide shows in blue what an absolute value function looks like. I don't want you to copy this down right now. I just want to talk for a minute. So f of x equals a absolute value of x minus h plus k. We're going to learn how to utilize that equation. So before we start graphing, I want to review with you how to calculate absolute value. And I still don't want you to write. I would just like you to listen, okay? So how do we calculate absolute value? And we're going to use this function, absolute value of x plus 4. And just to review, find the value when you plug in x equals 3. So if I take the function x plus 4, absolute value of x plus 4, and I plug in a 3, that means we're just going to put it in here. We're really asking you what's the absolute value of 3 plus 4, and that means what's the absolute value of 7. And so that just means how many spaces is 7 away from 0? If you remember, we talked about absolute value is the distance from 0. Well, it's 7 spaces away, so the answer is just 7. So out of the absolute value bar comes 7. So we're going to do it again. And you're just paying attention for a minute. So we're going to use the function that they gave us, and then this time we're going to plug in when the x is worth negative 6. So what's negative 6 plus 4? What's the absolute value of that? So that means negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. What is the absolute value of negative 2? How many spaces away from 0 is negative 2? It's 2 spaces away. So the point of this is absolute value always comes out to be a positive answer out of those absolute value bars. Okay? So we just needed to review that so we can actually do some graphing. I still don't want you to write because I'm going to give you another lecture where you're going to have to copy some of this vocab down. So I just want you to look and watch here. So this is a picture of an absolute value graph, and they have arrows on the end. So when we pull these out of Desmos to use on a video, it ends up cutting off those arrows. And if I write too close to the bottom, then my slide changes. So those are arrows. So on the end of every absolute value is arrows. They are V-shaped. And the vertex is where the two straight rays meet. So there's two rays, and at that red dot is the vertex. And this is just the equation of what's graphed. Now, why is this V-shaped one upside down? And that's because, and I just wanted to bring your notation to it, of that negative. That means it reflects the graph upside down. And again, here we're just showing you where the vertex is at. Okay, so the vertex is at the red dot in the middle. V shape is how everything should come out. And the vertex is also called the minimum or the maximum. So this, if you look, the vertex is a minimum. Here, the vertex is the maximum of the graph on the bottom one. Okay, now I want you to go ahead and start copying notes. Please put notes 26 in the top left corner. So these are your steps to graph. Oops. So you should write steps to graph absolute value. This is just a little different way to present it. You could put it in a table or list it out. So step 1 is to do the setup. So you write down, set up a t-chart, choose some x values. Step 2 is to compute. You're going to plug in the x into the equation and find the y. Step 3, you're going to graph the points. So you just plot each point. And step 4 is to connect the dots and identify the vertex, okay? So hit pause while you write those steps down. Hit pause. Okay, you should be back. So if you don't have graph paper, then I would just expect you to use some kind of straight edge or ruler. And you can just mark out, I usually mark out 3, 4, 5 tick marks. You can always add more if you need them. So if you're comfortable with 4 or 5, I like 4, I don't know why. Okay, so you're going to just go ahead and make a quick XY coordinate plane on your notes. If you need to hit pause for that, go ahead. Excuse me. Okay, so remember you can hit pause. Okay, so this is the table of values. This is what we're going to graph. It's called the parent function. I'm just going to put it right here at the top of the T-chart. And I'm going to tell you this time on all these T-chart what numbers to pick. So for this one, we're going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. That's what we're picking for X. And we're going to plug that right there in, and we're going to do the equation. So Y equals absolute value of -2, as we plug in for X, the -2. What is the absolute value of -2? That would be a +2. We just went over that. Remember, it always comes out to be positive outside the bars. And then we put those two XY numbers together for the dot -2, 2. Ooh, sorry. And then the next one, we're going to plug in a -1. So Y equals absolute value of -1. That would come out as +1. And so we're going to put a 1 under Y. And so -1, 1 is the point that we're going to graph. And the next one, Y equals absolute value of 0. Well, that would be 0. 0 distance away from the origin. So we're going to graph the point 0, 0. And we'll keep going. Y equals absolute value of 1. That's worth 1. So we're going to plot the point 1, 1. And the last one, Y equals absolute value of 2 is equal to 2. So we're going to plot the point 2, 2. And I just changed colors midway because I thought it was easier to see orange instead of the red. That's the only reason why I changed colors. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead and graph these points. So let's plot this point. -2, left 2, up 2. Next point, left 1, up 1. Next point, 0, 0. Next point, over 1, up 1. Oops. Over 1, up 1. And the last one, over 2, up 2. And what do you know? We got a V-shaped graph. Put arrows on the end. Come on. There we go. Make it look V-shaped. It's a little bit harder. And then we're going to identify the vertex. That's at 0, 0. And that's this dot right here, right in the middle, right? And if you had graph paper at home, it would have came out to be the same, right? So remember, you do need to get your Algebra 2 textbook, Volume 1 and Volume 2, because I'm going to start giving homework out of that soon, okay? And they have the graphs pre-printed in there for you. Okay, so now it doesn't want to register. Come on. There we go. I'm not sure I'm on the right one. Okay. All right, so if you can write down this equation in your T-chart. I want to do a different color. Let me erase that. Okay, Y equals absolute value of X minus 3. I'm choosing the numbers, and I'm not really going to explain why I'm choosing these numbers right now. But these are the numbers that I want you to use, okay? Ready? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When we get farther into this math, I will explain to you why I chose those numbers, but for right now, we're just going to do the math. All right? Here we go. So y equals, plug in the 1 for that x. So it would be 1 minus 3. I'm going to plug in the next one. Plug in a 2 minus 3. I'm going to plug in the next one. 3 minus 3. I'm going to plug in the next one. 4 minus 3. Whoops. Let me grab my eraser. And y equals 5 minus 3. And you can hit pause if you want to catch up with that. Remember, you have to draw the graph too. The tablet's being fussy today. Really fussy. It's been fussy all morning. Okay, so hopefully you're caught up. So we'll do the top one. 1 minus 3 is absolute value of negative 2. That would be a positive 2, right? I'm going to go all the way down here. This one, 2 minus 3, absolute value of negative 1. Next one, 3 minus 3, absolute value of 0. 4 minus 3, absolute value of 1. 5 minus 3, absolute value of 2. So if I go to the top, what's the absolute value negative 2? 2. What's the absolute value negative 1? 1. Absolute value of 0? 0. Absolute value of 1? 1. Absolute value of 2? 2. And then we put those yellow numbers together so that we can make the points so that we can graph them. Okay, so if you put those on the graph, it would be over 1 up 2, over 2 up 1, over 3, don't go up, over 4 up 1, over 5. It's a funny looking 2 down there. There we go. Over 5 up 2, and there we go. We have our V-shaped graph. My one dot is a little bit off there. There we go. Put arrows on the end, and we have our V-shaped graph. Now again, the reason why we chose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the x values is because I know which numbers to pick for this graph, and I will explain that to you later. You don't have to worry about it right now, okay? Hit pause if you need to get caught up. All right, here we are. We're back again. So we're going to do another problem. So I'm going to make my tick marks. And I'm going to write the function inside here. Now writing g of x is the same as writing y equals 2, right? We talked about how this just means y equals 2. No different. So you need to make a t-chart. Hit pause. Okay, so for these, we're going to pick these numbers, -4, -3, -2, -1, and 0. And again, I'll explain to you why we're picking those as we advance in our math. So we're asking for the absolute value of -4, because remember, I'm taking this number and plugging it in right there, plus 2, right? So you take that number that's in the t-chart and plug it in. The next one will be -3 plus 2, -2 plus 2, -1 plus 2, and the last one, 0 plus 2. So what are the absolute values of those amounts, right? So if you do the math on the inside, -4 plus 2 is the absolute value of -2. and that comes out to be a positive 2. So it's negative 4, 2. The next one is negative 3 plus 2. That's the absolute value of negative 1. That would be a positive 1. So we're going to graph negative 3, 1. The next one is negative 2 plus 2. What's the absolute value of 0? That equals 0. So the dot will be negative 2, 0. The next one is negative 1 plus 2. That's 1. And the absolute value of 1 is just 1. And the last one is 0 plus 2 is just 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. So 0, comma 2. So if we go ahead and put those on the grid, and remember, you can just take a minute to hit pause while we're doing this, right? Okay, so I'm going to go left 4 for this first dot, right? Left 4, up 2. Next one, left 3, up 1. That's for this one. Next one, go left 2 and don't go up. So that's the dot right on the axis. Then the next one, negative 1, left 1, up 1. And the next one is 0, don't move, up 2. So that would be up here. So there's our graph. And they should be straight, V-shaped, with arrows on the end. Okay? And if we did that over here. There we go. Alrighty. Now we're going to do this one. Okay, so I'm going to put the equation in here. This one's different. It says take the absolute value of something, then add 1. So this one's going to be slightly different. So for this, we're going to use negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. So it's going to be the absolute value of negative 2, then add 1. Absolute value of negative 1, then add 1. Absolute value of 0, then add 1. So remember, we're always plugging in for this x, right? To plug in these numbers for x. Absolute value of 1, then add 1. Absolute value of 2, then add 1. So what is the absolute value of negative 2? It'd be 2. So this would come out to be 2 plus 1. So that equals 3. What's the absolute value of negative 1? 1 plus the back 1. That would come out to be 2. Absolute value of 0 is 0 plus 1. It would come out to be 1. Absolute value of 1 plus another 1 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2 plus 1 is 3. So there's your dots that you need to graph for that one. Negative 2, 3, negative 1, 2, 0, 1, 1, 2, and 2, 3. So go ahead and draw yourself a grid and graph those points. I'm going to use this one. Negative 2, 3. Negative 1 up 2. 0 don't move, up 1. Over 1 up 2. Over 2 up 3. I kind of missed that dot. I could do better than that. There we go. Make sure you have arrows at the end, and here's our vertex. Right there. You can hit pause if you need more time. Okay, here's another one. So I'm going to write the function inside the table value. So it says take the absolute value of something and then subtract 4. So we're going to use -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2 on this one. So absolute value, then take away 4. So plug in -2, absolute value, -1, absolute value, take away 4, absolute value, take away 4, absolute value, and take away 4. So absolute value of -2 would be 2 minus 4. That's a -2. So our dot is -2, -2. Next one. Absolute value of -1 is 1. Take away 4 is -3. So -1, -3. Absolute value of 0 is 0 minus 4 is -4. So 0, -4. And the bottom one is absolute value of 1 is 1 minus 4. That would be -3. So 1, -3. And the last one, absolute value of 2 is 2 minus 4. That would be -2. This would be 2, -2. So I expect you to draw a grid or use graph paper. So I'm going to graph these. Left 2 down 2 would be here. Left 1 down 3. This one I say 0, don't move, down 4. Then right 1 down 3. And right 2 down 2. Now at this point, you should notice how your dots always come out to be a V and that they're symmetrical. So there's a dot symmetrical on either side, right? That makes it easy to grasp. So straight rays with arrows on the end, and then this is your vertex. That vertex is at a minimum. Okay, so make sure you have your graph done. You can hit pause if you need a moment. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you. No homework for today.